Hey YouTube, we're back. I believe this is part 4 of the flaps mod. And what we're doing is we're just working on the one wing so far. We've got the flap down. So now we're just cutting an opening to receive the flap servo. And we were just talking about how we have 2 flap servos, which goes without saying on a plane this size. And you see how if they're opposing one another, they're going to go opposite directions. So because I'm cutting my own servo pockets, I can just make them go the same direction. It's not a big deal. Now if you had servo pockets already made for you, you'd have to do a servo reverser. So again, not a big deal, but I am going to try to get them into the similar position because we don't have any sub trim. We'll have to also make a mechanical linkage that will allow for some sub trim as well. So now it shouldn't matter which side we pick. So what's going to happen is these will sit in their pocket and then they'll pull the control surface pretty simply. So that's the key. That's what we're going to try to do next and for the next stage of this project. Now I have no intentions of showing you the second wing because they're going to be identical. I've just mirrored. But I do have intentions of giving you a follow-up where everything is kind of working. So, a couple thoughts here. The body of this servo looks like it will fit in this opening, which is good because, like I said, it tapers as it goes down the length of the wing. But the thing is, I am going to have to compete with where this rod goes and where this rod goes. So it's not inconceivable that we could just bring this servo up to the front like this. And that would be okay with me. I wouldn't care. Plus then that moves the weight forward of the center of gravity, or at least on the center of gravity. Here's the center of gravity that's supposed to be, and this is where we're running it, slightly back. So the more weight we can move forward, really kind of the better. So it might not be a bad idea to just cut the pocket in up front. And the only compromise here is that where we're going to have these linkages, we're going to be hand launching. So imagine you're hand launching the plane and you've got this crap right next to your thumb. It's not so fun because they can kind of cut you, which is not good. I have that problem sometimes with the Consendo. Except I catch that plane too. I don't just hand launch it, I'll hand catch it too. Don't think I'm going to be hand catching this plane too much. So it'd be really cool if I could do it here, but I'm just suspect it's going to have to be a pretty lucky spot if I get it in there. Now up here I also have I spatially have more room. So I think the safer bet is to just go ahead and bite the bullet and do it up front. So that's what we're going to do. Now, speaking of covers, we had cut this cover out of the vitamin bottle or whatever it was. And so this is going to hopefully be enough for, 2 of them. And so we'll go ahead and cut that out. But the idea is this is going to be slightly larger so it can actually bite into the wood. And so it's a pretty straightforward process. I'll just lay the servo there where I think I need it to be. And then the second thing is before I cut this wing anymore, and I've already cut it, we're going to get out our wire and we're going to start figuring out the next step, which is going to be making this thing move. And you're thinking, well, why are you going to do that before you have this position? Well, the reason we do it first is because then we make sure that we have enough throw to actually make this system work. Okay? Because that's a big deal. If you don't have it right, it's going to be a big deal. And so I'd rather not cut the wing any more than we absolutely have to. It looks like we've already started using this rod here, so that's what is this stuff? This is music wire. KG Manufacturing. What is it? KS Precision Metals. Stock number 501, which is 0.032 or 0.032 inches or 0.81 millimeters. So I think this is the same as what we used. Actually, it looks like that might be That might be 1 millimeter instead of 0.1. 0.18. 0.18 smaller. So let's see if I got the 1 millimeter stuff going. And I see some thicker stuff here. I believe this is the thicker stuff. This would be stock number 497, which is 1 millimeter. So I'll just grab the one that's already shorter. Okay, we'll double check this. Now the rationale behind trying to match it up to this is just because this stuff has worked really good and we haven't had an issue with it, so I'm going to stick with it if I can. Okay, now put some safety glasses on because I'll be doing some grinding. Whoops. Got the wrong ones. Whenever you're working with this crap, sometimes it'll get a mind of its own, so you gotta be careful. So we go for a nice smooth finish on there. Not trying to sharpen it at all, just trying to take off the nasty edge. Okay, so now the way I almost always do this is pretty similar. I use these bendy pliers. They seem to work really nice for this. And I will take and put them into the tip if it works, and it seems to work on the millimeter or smaller. And I'll make a nasty little bend like that. And basically that gives me something to actually put into the servo control arm. So in this case it looks like that arm hole is pretty small. So we're going to have to open that up. And that's fine. I figured we would have to do that. So let's see what size this is. This is 1/16 of an inch, is significantly larger. We're not going to want to go that large. We don't want that much slop. So we'll have to go for this bit set. And there's a 1 millimeter bit in here somewhere. Oh, that son of a gun. It's right there, guys. These things get magnetically charged occasionally by other tools and or magnets, and it's really annoying because then they always stick together. I need to take and either demagnetize them or put them into a different holder. Okay, so that's very, very close, okay? I can't use my good drill for this, which is really annoying, because my good drill won't hold on to the bit unless I put tape around it, around the base of the bit. So I have to use my crappy driver. But this thing goes to an infinite smallness. Okay, so now what would be nice is if we had enough room to do a hole higher so you'd have more output, but we can't do that on this. So let's open up the top hole. We're going to give it just a little wiggle. We're going to do that on both. Then we're going to make sure we can get it in there. Notice we didn't do a huge wiggle. We just did a little wiggle. Okay, so we got our wire. Let's try to stuff this in there. Yep, that'll work, and you can make the bend. That's the important step. If you can't make the bend, you got to do it different. Okay, so now I can take these and hold it tight like a toiga, and then make my bend. It's really irrelevant, that little tail, but I'm going to make it square anyway while I can. Make it nice and square. And then what I can do is I can decide, do I want this to be, it's going to be like this, hypothetically. So do I want it on the inside or the outside? I don't know. Oh, I want it on the outside, because when the fuse is there, it's going to be really hard to put these back in if I need to take them out. Okay, so we're going to slide that in, make our bend, and then we can get our approximate location. Now, keeping in mind, that would actually be a really nice home position, because then you're not going to be fighting the servo, okay? But that's actually going to be the home position, so unless we want to make it do this, which means it locks the flap in home position, and then as you deploy flaps, you pull it back to you. Okay, but then when you push them back to the home position, you get this like linear, lined up position. Well, the thing is, this is going to be inside of the body of the wing, so you may not have the flexibility that you think you're going to have to do that. So, just trying to think. Maybe it would be better to have it with full deployment, have this thing lined up like that. So it's kind of got the strength pulling it back, okay? Kind of like that. You see, we don't have much deflection there, guys. Okay, so now we want to make an adjustment somewhere. Let's make the adjustment about midpoint. Now, there's nothing magical about this. You could do a V. I want it to look like the other one. The other one looks like this, which is kind of ugly, but whatever. You want to try to keep these things as square as possible, so don't do it like me. You could use a Z-bend tool if you've got it, if you're into that sort of thing. I don't have one because I'm not a huge fan of tools that do just only one thing, but I do have a few, reluctantly, because I need them. Okay, so now I can straighten this. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just squaring this up so that later on, if I do have to make an adjustment, it's not so cattywampus that it can't be done. This all has to be linear and true. And when I say linear, I realize it's not a really good word for that, but you know what I mean, guys. Okay, I'm going to spin this in. I'm going to twist this just a hair to get it lined up. Good. I'm going to put that back down. Okay, now I'm in the neutral state here, so like flying like this, and that would be okay. So now, as you can see, we've got this style of adapter to the control surface. So let's go find one of those. So it looks like we have this one, which is super similar, and we have this one, which is also super similar. And I would be lying to you to say that there's something special about these, but it's just the ones that happen to match what's in the rest of the wing. So as far as I'm concerned, might as well make them match if we can. Now, real quick 10,000 foot view update. This aileron does not have a backer on the inside, or on the top side of the wing. It just screws in like that, okay? One thing about this area is that if we have to make a change to this surface, as maybe we get done and we want to try to flatten it out some more, so we won't be able to adjust that. But I don't have much pull either. See, that's the full deflection that we're going to get. So we got to be careful where we put this hinge point. We need it to be really, really close to the surface of the material so that it makes the maximum deflection possible. But we can't have it so that the wire gets pinched in the actual joint. So really, we're stuck with the choice of, we'll probably have to shorten this thing, this little control lever arm thingy, and then we'll have to put a new hole right down toward the bottom, okay? And then we'll probably use the existing screws here, but they're probably not going to make it through to the other side of the material, because I don't think these screws are going to be long enough. Let's try. Just a couple of similar, or excuse me, standard looking Phillips screws. We'll stick that down there. So we'll throw those there, and the screwdriver too. And then one trick that works really nice when you're doing this stuff is to just, you can actually just glue these on temporarily if you got a monocoat surface to work with, which is really handy. I gotta find that thing. We also can tape the servo into our proposed mounting location for an approximate location, which will help us to not spin our wheels quite as much. Even though it is just a temporary thing, it'll make a big difference in the amount of effort it takes. And then of course when we do the other wing, we're going to be copying it so it looks symmetrical. To be very close. Not exact, because we're going to have one this way and one's going to end up being, I forget how that works. It's going to be like that. Okay, so whatever. No, it's going to be the exact same orientation. It's just the wing is going to be the other way. Okay, so we got that taped down. Didn't do a very good job of it either. So now it's taped down approximately where we want. Okay. Then that can give us the ability to put our other piece in. So what we'll do is we'll just do a drip of CA to hold it in place. We're not going to be putting a lot of load on this, so it should be fine for now. The other thing is, let's make sure that this wire is going to fit through the existing hole, which it does. Now we talked about maybe going in a little closer, so we could also take and drill another hole. So that'll give us another mounting location. Need a little bit of material to work with still. Okay, so we got a second hole now. So we can make a decision between which position to put that in. And then, you wouldn't have to do this right now, but it's always kind of a good idea to get your holes the same on both of these, because they're going to be the same control surfaces. You want even deployment, so I'm actually going to line those things up like hole for hole right now. So basically I'm lining up the new hole with the old hole, and then I'll take this drill bit and actually just poke another hole here. Yeah, that looks about right. Oops. Okay, so now we've got both of those things so that they'll agree approximately, or really, really close. When we're ready to do the other side, that'll be waiting for us. Okay, so for now though, we can go ahead and get this approximately where we want. We know that we're in the home position. And so that's going to be where that needs to be. And if we bend it at the lower hole, it's going to be bent about here. Okay, so at this point, you need to take this, bend it 90 degrees. Make sure we're true 90 degrees of one another. And you may not want it 90 degrees, it depends on what you're trying to do with it. Okay, now we're going to hold that as tight as we can, and then just bend it like that. Now we're going to cut this thing. Where the heck is my... There it is. Okay, so now this piece we can lay down over here. And we're going to clean up the tip of this one now. Okay, get that out of the way for now. Alright, so let's try slipping this together. This is going to come in from the outside. Just like that. Okay. And we can slip this on. I think it was pointed toward the flap, one click-ish. Okay, so now we can just take and do like one little drip of CA, which we'll be able to take this off, believe me. It's going to come off probably before we want it to. And then one little bit of kicker. Okay, so that's that now. So now we can take this tape. This tape is sucking. It's not holding it worth a darn. So I'm going to take and double this back up on itself like that. And then I'm going to go the other way as well. And then we'll just kind of position that underneath it where we think we want the servo to end up approximately, and then pop it in. Okay, so now we can deploy the flaps. Okay, now you see what's happening? We're binding into ourselves with that control horn. See? It's not a horrible amount of deflection, but it's not as much as I would like. I would really, really like to figure out how to get a little bit more deflection out of this. But before we continue, I'm going to bend this. Oh, see, I told you it'd come off easy. This thing, okay, needs to go up like that. That way, as it bends up, it's not going to catch itself. Let's try the other hole. I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but we'll see how that goes. Usually if you're out further, then it's not going to move the surface quite as far. Just going to let that sit for a second. A little bit of kicker. Now, if I were getting ready to drill this, then it wouldn't be a big deal. It would just take a couple of seconds, and you wouldn't really be actuating it at all. Okay. Okay, so same kind of scenario here now. You know, and I guess I'm not real thrilled about the amount of deflection, but let's be honest, that's a lot of change in the wing shape. That's a pretty big flap still. I can't help but try something else. I must, and I will. These giant long ones, I usually don't even use them, but the thing is I could cut off what I'm not going to use at the top. And I never use these freaking things. I don't even know what the heck you would use those for. But we're going to find out right now. Okay, so it looks like I would need this one. So I'm going to cut that, cut that, cut that. Okay, we can just put this off to the side for now. We'll take our grinder so we can clean this little swoop up. Okay, real simple. Get that cleaned up. Okay, so now these we didn't have to open up. Let's pop off the existing one. Take that control arm off. Now, look how much bigger this is, guys. Hole for hole, the first hole is further than the last hole here. And it does look like we did open that up now that I sit and say that. So really, let's go out to the middle hole. And then let's go out to the end hole. Oh, who am I kidding? If I can make it work with the end hole. See, here's the problem, is that thing's going to stick out pretty far. So, that's the worst part of it. See? There's technically more deflection there. So, we might be able to get away with this, though. Okay, so we're just going to slip this on. Give it a quick twist. See? More deflection. And it won't look quite as ridiculous when it's buried in the wing. But that's still pretty long. Now, is that going to be a problem? I don't think so. The other thing is I'm deployed too far down. So technically I would need to probably come up one click. It's always hard when you don't have finite adjustment. If you have a shared signal on two channels or something weird like I'm doing here. Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. So we actually have more than we need. That's awesome. I didn't expect to have that problem. So I wonder if we go to the inside hole here. Okay, so we'll go to the inside hole, and then what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and go to the middle hole. And we'll see if that gives us a suitable amount of throw. Okay. I'm going to glue it down again, guys. Big surprise, right? Oh, look at that. That's pretty much fully deployed there. Especially if I trim it, because like right now we're beyond home position there, so we got a spoiler going on. So if we were to adjust this as it ought to be, which you don't have to fine tune these things, I'm just trying to figure this out right now. For positioning stuff. Okay, so now that's pretty close to flat. It's not totally flat, so we gotta go just a little bit more. Oh, that son of a gun. I'm gonna have to pop this off. I figured that would happen. Ah, that turd broke free. Okay, so we want those to be still straight. Okay, so we'll get these squared up just like this. Okay, so it's sort of squared up. Make sure we're in the home position, which we are. And another drip. We'll scrape off the extra glue here in a little bit when we're ready to actually get screws in there. And we'll glue it for one more time too, for good old time's sake. Now if you really wanted this to stay, you could you could glue it in there enough to make it stay, but you'd have a big old blob of glue all over it. And you can see the servos moving away a little bit too. See, we're fairly close to flush right now. We're not perfect. Of course, this wing isn't plugged in, or that would be more centered there as well. So it makes the flap look like it's down. It's really actually pretty close to level right here. Guys, I can live with that. I can definitely live with that. Okay, so looks like this is going to conclude part 4. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. There'll be more action coming, guys. You know me, I can't help myself.